Good afternoon. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. On the evening of April 8, 2016, a Friday, a crew of men climbed onto the roof of an HSBC bank branch on 13th Avenue in Brooklyn in Borough Park. They secretly cut out the wires to the security alarms and the telephone lines leading into the bank. Over the next 2 nights, while the bank remained closed for the weekend, they used acetylene blowtorches to tunnel through the roof of the bank and make their way into the bank's vault. Inside the vault, they found exactly what they were looking for. Literally, bundles of cash, over $330,000, as well as valuables that customers kept safe in safe deposit boxes in that vault. By the time the bank reopened on Monday, the men were long gone, leaving a jagged hole in the bank's roof and many victims in their wake. Just over a month later, the crew struck again. Over the weekend of May 20th, they climbed onto the roof of another bank, this time the Maspeth Federal Savings Bank, a small community bank on Woodhaven Boulevard in Queens. This time, they built a plywood structure, painted black to hide themselves while they worked. They again used acetylene blowtorches to cut their way through the roof and into the bank's vault. Inside the vault, the crew found an even bigger treasure than before: $300,000 in cash and over $4.3 million in valuables like jewelry, diamonds, coins, and stock certificates that customers had kept in safety deposit boxes. All of it gone by the time the bank reopened Monday morning, with just the gaping hole surrounded by plywood structures and empty safe deposit boxes strewn across the roof. The thieves stole not just people's money, but their memories too. What was left at the banks and on the roofs of the banks looks like something out of a scene of a movie. If you see the charts to my right, this is what the scene on Monday morning looked like at the Maspeth Bank. You'll see the hole that was cut through the roof of the bank with the acetylene torches. That structure is sort of the makeshift plywood shed that was used to hide their activity while they were doing the drilling. And you'll see a whole host of safety deposit boxes that had been looted of their contents left behind in the wake of the crime. This is the scene on the weekend after the burglary at the HSBC Bank, as I mentioned, in April 2016. You see that's a neat hole cut out of the roof and a ladder left behind by the burglars, leading right into the room where the safety deposit boxes were being kept. So those were the bank heists, as I described, but happily the story does not end there with these crime scene photos. It was followed by really incredible police work by the FBI and the NYPD, namely the FBI-NYPD Joint Violent Crimes Task Force. Agents and officers with that task force, working with prosecutors from my office, poured through countless hours of surveillance videos and studied mountains of paper, including telephone records, cell site information, financial records, and credit card receipts. They analyzed surveillance videos from around HSBC Bank and were able to identify the cars used by the crew. They obtained cell tower information from mobile phones used around the time of the bank heists. They obtained credit card receipts and surveillance video from a Home Depot in Brooklyn, where the crew bought the plywood and paint used to build the shed that I described. They also scoured through surveillance videos from a group of row houses in Brooklyn that appeared to show the crew returning from the bank heists and preparing their tools. This is the type of good, old-fashioned detective work that led to the arrests and charges we announce today. We have charged in a complaint and arrested this morning 3 men, Michael Mazzara, Charles Kerrigan, and Anthony Mascuzio, for being part of the crew allegedly behind these 2 brazen bank heists. These, by the way, these arrests that we announced today are just the latest in a series of successful collaborations we have had with the FBI, NYPD Joint Violent Crimes Task Force. Earlier this year, working in conjunction with that task force, we charged 5 men, including a New York State corrections officer, in a series of gunpoint robberies of armored car operators in the Bronx, people who were stealing thousands of dollars in cash. Last fall, again, working with that same task force, we charged 3 individuals with participating in burglaries of banks in Manhattan and in Hoboken. Each of these cases has been the result of our great partnership with the FBI and the NYPD. Our relationship with these two law enforcement organizations in all areas has never been stronger. So first, I want to thank the FBI, represented here today by Diego Rodriguez, Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office. Specifically, I want to thank him and his team, and more particularly, Supervisory Special Agent Barbara Daly and Special Agent Brad Price. I also want to thank the NYPD, of course, represented here today by Commissioner Bill Bratton, for their work on the case and their commitment to the work of the Joint Violent Crimes Task Force. I specifically want to acknowledge and commend Detective Paul Courtney and Lieutenant David Glassberg. Finally, I want to thank the career prosecutors in my own office who have worked tirelessly on this case for a long time. Assistant U.S. Attorneys Bennett Kearney and David Denton, supervised by Ilan Graff and Amy Lester, the co-chiefs of the General Crimes Unit. I want to bring to the podium first my friend and partner Diego Rodriguez, but before I do that, I know it's been reported in the press, and I want to indulge for a moment. I don't know how many more times, if any at all, I'm going to be standing up here with Diego, who has been a fine leader of the FBI here in New York and has announced his move into the private sector sometime, I think, at the end of August. And so while I have you as a captive audience, I want to just express, not only in connection with this case, but every case we have done over the years, not only while Diego has been the head of the FBI here, but also when he was the special agent in charge of the criminal division at the FBI. There is no better friend, no better partner, no one more dedicated to keeping New Yorkers safe and to keeping the markets fair and to keeping government officials honest than our law enforcement partner, Diego. And so I'll have a lot more to say about that when he has his retirement party, which will be off the record. But I did want to acknowledge and thank all the great hard work that Diego's done, not just since we have been partnering together over the last few years, but during his entire decades-long career in public service. And the people of New York should be happy and proud and grateful that we had someone like that working on their behalf.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Wow, that was a tremendous honor. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much, Preet. It is wonderful, and I'm going to miss everybody. Trust me. So good afternoon, folks. These sophisticated bank burglaries had the makings of a movie plot. Masked men wore gloves and hoodies and slinked along bank rooftops in the dead of night. They dropped down from ceilings and used blowtorches to breach bank vaults. They stole cash and valuables and sped off in getaway cars. These guys hit banks in their own neighborhood of Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, the same banks their friends, their neighbors, and their families likely used. And not only did these banks suffer millions of dollars in losses, but these guys stole the contents of hundreds of safety deposit boxes as well. People depended on these safety deposit boxes to protect valuables deemed too precious and documents deemed too important to keep in their very own homes. The Mazzara crew took family heirlooms, jewelry, gold coins, and other valuables and likely tossed aside many victims' irreplaceable mementos, documents, and family photos. Because what held immense sentimental value to their victims was of little value to the Mazzara crew. These guys then used the money and valuables to finance their lavish lifestyles. They bought new cars and motorcycles, jet skis, and boats. They partied in Las Vegas and took trips to Miami while the residents of Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and Rego Park got taken to the cleaners. As always, folks, I will miss this, and I want to thank U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara and his office. I also want to thank the FBI NYPD Violent Crime Task Force, as well as Commissioner Brand and the NYPD, as well as the U.S. Probation and the New York National Guard and the DA for doggedly pursuing this investigation. We very much value and appreciate all of your partnerships. Thank you very much.
And now I'm going to call to the podium Commissioner Bratton, to whom I do not need to say goodbye just yet. I read Commissioner Bratton.
Thank you, Preet. I'll echo the U.S. Attorney's comments about Diego. I've had the very good fortune going back to 1990 when I first came here and worked with the agent in charge, Jim Fox, a succession of great leaders in the Bureau and certainly U.S. attorneys also. Echoing also the anecdote about comparison to movies, these heists reminded me of one of my favorite movies, Heat, Bob De Niro, Al Pacino. The work of a crew that was well organized, meticulous, and elusive to law enforcement. But they weren't meticulous enough and, quite obviously, not elusive enough. This investigation was conducted with painstaking persistence. I was briefed on these cases continually. They left very few clues after the heist. Our crime scene teams hunted for every shred of evidence, from the physical surveillance to the license plate reader alerts to the poll camera analysis and old-school detective work. This is some of the best investigative work I've seen. This crew was nearly perfect, but they left behind small pieces of evidence that we compiled. From the plywood purchased at a nearby Home Depot to the torches from a Brooklyn welder used to muscle into the vault, the picture slowly came into focus. Defendant Michael Mazzar might have been the closest thing to Bob De Niro's character, Neil McCauley, in Heat, but we were not without our own version of Pacino's Lieutenant Vincent Hanna. The Joint Violent Task Force, better known as the Joint Bank Robbery Task Force, was first established in 1979 by my predecessor, Bob McGuire, to combat more than 800 bank robberies, actual robberies with guns back in those days. We now have a more common problem with notes. Castaway is outdated. The first ever task force in the history of law enforcement in this city was abandoned. When I returned as police commissioner, Bob Boyce, my chief of detectives, and I made its reformation, the task force model that created the JTTF, one of our first orders of business, working in enhanced collaboration with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. We cannot do this work alone. We must do it together. And this is an example, a superb example of the extraordinary collaboration that these task forces bring about. Echoing also, once again, Preet's comments, I'd like to thank NYPD Detective Paul Courtney and FBI Agent Brad Price for their relentless work in this case. The supervisors, Lieutenant David Glassberg and Supervisory Special Agent Barbara Daly's work was, without doubt, exceptional. My own Chief of Detectives, Bob Boyce, FBI Assistant Director Diego Rodriguez, who we will really miss, and Special Agent in Charge Mitchell Hapster from the FBI. We work so many of these cases together, and as always, if it wasn't for the close cooperation between our respective agencies, today's conference, today's arrests, today's clearances would not have been possible. And finally, I'd like to thank Assistant United States Attorneys Bernard Kearney, David Denton, Ilan Graf, and Amy Lester, and certainly our U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, Preet Bharara, who continues to be an invaluable partner on this case, and as he referenced, so many other cases. A great collaboration that benefits the citizens of New York and benefits this department, the NYPD. And so I thank them for the opportunity once again work on a case that was so satisfactory to bring to such a successful conclusion.
Thanks, Commissioner. Happy to take your questions.
Can you tell us two things? One thing that we learned in terms of the customers who had their belongings taken from the safety deposit box, were you able to recover any of those items? And secondly, I know that this was still considered to be part of a larger pattern of about 10. Are you expecting other charges and to be linked to the other?
Yeah. So with respect to the first, I think search warrants were executed at seven locations and are still in the process of being finished. And I think the preliminary report is large amounts of cash have been found and some other items. It's just too early to say whether or not they can be connected back to the burglaries, but we should have that information in a relatively short period of time. And hopefully, as appropriate, people's belongings that were stolen, if they can be matched back to the customer of the particular bank, can be returned to them eventually. With respect to the second, I'm answering the second part of your question. With respect to the second, part of what the task force does is take a look at and try to hold accountable and recover money from any and all robberies or burglaries that have occurred in Brooklyn, Queens, or anywhere else. So there are a number of others. We're in the process of continuing that investigation, and I can't predict necessarily that there will be more arrests, but these investigations remain very much open.
But
Yeah.
it might be tied to the pattern of 10 that I know we discussed.
I don't want to speculate on that now. All I can tell you is we have arrested a number of people that we allege in the complaint are responsible for both of these burglaries, and there are others that are still open, and we hope to be able to prove people responsible for those also.
Taking you two breakers together collectively, what are the common elements, techniques, and so forth that lead you to say this is like something from the movies?
That's an unusual question. I think the police commissioner did a great job of aligning some of the things that happened here, connecting them to a movie. I think anytime you have any kind of bank heist that's as brazen as this, not as an expert on cinema, although I do go to the movies. I think using acetylene blowtorches, having a network of cars that you're using in connection with going to the site, casing out the site, as we described in the complaint. There was an abandoned storefront next to one of the banks, and people used that location to essentially drill in through torches through the roof and take stuff out. Maybe it's not as exciting a movie as you go to, but it seems movie-like to us. Yeah.
Can you say how these guys know each other and whether or not any of them have criminal records?
I'm not going to comment on whether or not they have a criminal record, but obviously, I don't think we allege what their relationship is separate and apart from their membership in this crew that was engaging in these bank burglaries. So I'm going to leave that alone.
Let me just follow up
Yeah.
on that answer. Mr. Marscuzio, is he the son of Jordi Marscuzio, who was killed?
Anthony Marscuzio, 1988. Is that the same
Yeah.
family?
Yeah, I'm not. Yes. He'll confirm it. Yes.
And he's the son?
He is the son.
Mr. Mazzara, was he the one who was also shot at in the jet ski episode sometime in 2009? Keeps that bad.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
That's the same person, Anthony. He's shot in the face at that point.
How many victims or how many boxes?
I'm sorry?
How many victims or how many boxes?
I don't know how many victims, but I think there are dozens of boxes. I don't think we specify an exact number in the complaint, but many. I mean, obviously, with respect to one of the banks, we allege that it's about $4.3 million in belongings of people. That's clearly over the course of many, many safety deposit boxes. I don't think we specify a particular number.
No, go ahead.
Are there any specific items which are particularly notable? For example, are any stamps, that are particularly rare, or rather charges a baseball card? Is there anything?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to go beyond what's in the complaint, but we mentioned jewelry, we mentioned trading cards, things of that nature, yeah.
You talked about surveillance in the complaints. It appears as if the suspects were under surveillance in April prior to the May incident. Would there have been any opportunity to make an arrest before the May incident, if you can speak to that?
Yeah, look, these folks have been doing a great job trying to see if, if surveillance would lead us to a point where we could arrest people. It took a lot of connecting of a lot of dots, including going through, that's why I spent some time going through all the things that had to be done. So the trail could be followed. We arrested people as soon as we could, make the positive identifications, and as soon as we could connect people to these bank burglaries. So, the fact that people were under surveillance for a period of time, I think lends credence to the idea that these folks are really hard working at trying to make sure that we had proper IDs of the people who are responsible.
There was some talk about the proceeds that they used them to buy cars, and motorcycles, and boats, and take vacations. This all happened since April and May. All these things, the vacations, the boats, the motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, I'm going to not say anything beyond what's in the complaint.
The amount of loss, $5 million that you're alleging, in the scheme of recent history of bank burglaries in the city or elsewhere, how does this run a substantial loss?
I mean, based on ones that we have charged, and there are other prosecutors' offices, yeah, I said there are other prosecutors' offices, I'm told. Based on ones that we have done, this ranks very highly, I think, in the last few years.
For our viewers who may not be so well-versed in bank robberies, can you explain a little bit in greater detail?
You should watch more movies.
Acetylene tanks are used, and the oxygen tanks, and the fire extinguisher, and the shop vac, those were also mentioned in the criminal complaint. Can you explain how those elements were used in these incidents, please?
Yeah, I'm not an expert either, and I can just repeat what you can read for yourself in the complaint. There's a certain kind of blowtorch that can cut through ceilings and cut through roofs that use a combination of oxygen and other materials. You can see that I'm not doing a great job of answering your question. I'm sure there are better sources of information on how particular blowtorches are used. That's the best I can do for you.
For the police commissioner or for Detective Boyce, you guys have spoken a lot about financial crimes. This seems to be a very brick and mortar thing, cutting wires and stuff. Have you guys spoken to banks about upgrading their infrastructure so people can't do this kind of activity?
The answer is yes. We meet often, and we actually addressed that group. I just can't remember the name of it by hand. Last year, sat and gave a quick presentation. They're in constant contact with the major case unit as well as the Joint Bank Robbery Task Force. So yeah, the answer is yes. I personally have, and so have my detectives.
Thanks, everybody.